We've got,
Woohoo!
This is Sandra who's talking, by the way. We've got Lisa, Lori, maybe that's you, Coach, the 404 number.
Looks like Colt there.
Yep. Bobby. So Colt, last I heard, Colt was in Atlanta traffic on his way to the airport. So Colt, I'm not sure if you're joining from your car or from the airport yet.
We see him on video, Sandra. So.
Yep, I made it.
Now I can hear you.
Excellent. Well done. And it looks like we've got Bobby, Stephen. So we've got basically, we're missing Spencer and Lee right now, and Carrie and Anita. Elvia,
And
Marlange, and Cindy. Cindy may be late or not joining. Cindy is actually taking a new role of VP of Customer Experience at Manual, just starting. So
good for her.
Yeah, so
awesome.
We'll give her a.
We may have a couple of other Cargill people joining as well.
Excellent, excellent.
Great. There's Carrie and Spencer joining us just now.
Excellent. Okay. Hi, everyone. So
hello.
We're only missing Lee and Elvia, knowing that Cindy is likely to be late. So perhaps want to get started.
You want to get started, you think?
I think we're pretty close here. So I heard somebody say something or try to say something.
Hi, good afternoon, Lee. Hey, everyone.
Hi, Lee. Good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. We've got a full house today.
We got a full house. We got
Yay. Do you want to kick it off, Sandra, and then I'll take over? Or you want me to go?
Sure. I'll just say hello to everybody, and I know most of you, so I don't really need to introduce myself. But for a couple of you who do not know Annette Franz, she is one of our InsightWave partners and very well known in the CX space, and she is going to be our moderator today. Lauren, are you on the line as well?
I'm here too, Sandra. Thanks.
Hi, Lauren. Also, Lauren Führer is on the line. She's one of our fabulous member advisors, and may jump in here and there to add color or ideas as we talk through things. But the only other thing I'd like to say for those of you who may be new to our roundtable is that we really encourage you to participate. This is not a presentation, it's an interactive conversation, so please be as active as you'd like.
Thanks, Sandra. That was the first thing I was going to say. Is this is about you guys and for you guys, and so I'm looking forward to an active conversation today. Sandra, you are in charge of the slides today, aren't you? So, and somebody's on chat. Who's chatting with us? Oh, that's Lauren. Okay, Spencer. Hello. All right. So yeah, why don't we go ahead and go to the first slide. So today we're talking about going from insights to action and obviously advantage. I mean, that's what this is all about. Our day-to-day jobs are all about making sure that we're listening to our customers and to our employees, and then taking what we hear and turning that into an advantage for the business and for our customers. So we thought we'd start today with just a little diagram here of the different levels of, when you start with data, how do we get to insights, right? And what's the difference between data and information and insights? Very basic, but I promise it leads up to something, something good. All right, so data, obviously, as you all know, that's really like the raw, the unprocessed, the stuff that we get from our customers, whether it's in feedback or the breadcrumbs of data that we capture as they interact with our organizations. Then in the hierarchy, we go from data to information, which is really some processed form of that data, whether it's in, in dashboards or however we put that data into context. And then ultimately at the top of the pyramid, and this is the golden, this is where we want to get to, right, is those insights. And those insights are the things that really influence our decisions and help us to drive change. And insights, this is, you know, once we've got these, this is what takes us into being a data-driven organization. So I guess my first question for you guys is, how do you get from here to there, right? How do you guys go from data to insights? What does that process look like? Anybody want to share?
I'll jump in on that. Spencer, how are you?
Hey, Spencer. Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So, well, we like maybe most people on this call use a lot of surveys. So whether they're ad hoc surveys or I have a cadence that we have that, you know, goes out once a month to all of our customers to, you know, basically gather that data, and then Chelsea and I, who you know, Chelsea, we'll kind of analyze and look at it, and then we'll use that to make the decisions on any kind of product changes that we need to make.
What types of analytics do you guys use? How do you get from data to insights?
Yeah. So aside from, you know, the, you know, NPS and CSAT, which is awesome because you can kind of monitor what your customers are kind of measuring you at, we're asking very specific questions. So I'll give you just real world examples. So for those of you who don't know me, I work for Snack Nation. So we deliver healthy snacks to offices all over the country. And so we're always really in tune with how our product is being delivered and making sure that the customer experience as it relates to the proposition value, the value prop that we have when we are bringing a customer in, all the way through to when their snacks actually arrive at their office, and then how they open the box and how it's all packaged and how we're providing them with a display box to like set it out. So all of that experience I take into account with these surveys. So we're sending a survey after 15 days, asking them very specific about whether the first box experience lived up to their expectation, whether they felt valued by it, whether they're going to continue to use Snack Nation as their snack provider, and then we'll I think month 3, month 5, and then month 11 or 12, we're getting very specific about around those same types of questions, but as it relates to the most recent kind of deliveries or new things that they have that we're sending to them. So we're kind of measuring it all the way through. I hope that answered your question a bit. It's always around like, a little bit specific questions we're asking.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else want to share data to insights? How do you guys get there?
Yeah, this is Steven. Hi, Annette. How are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good. I just wanted to say I want Spencer's job at delivering healthy snacks. That's awesome.
Pretty cool.
I work at a health insurance company, and our customers don't really love us as much as they might love a healthy snack deliverer. So
we're very popular. We are.
Yeah.
Let's have a job swap. That'll be a new feature of InsightWave is job swapping.
Yeah, make sure you upsell it though, because it's really valuable. But back to your question.
Customers would love you if you did also deliver healthy snacks.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. Good point.
Maybe we can add that on to our offerings. But data insights, the way we're doing it right now, it's somewhat primitive. I call it the brute force method. We do have a voice of the customer program. We get the quantitative scores back. We also get the verbatims, and the brute force method is in the verbatims because we find that that's probably the most useful bit of information that we can get. And right now we parse it out. We do write our own little algorithms or filters to grab keywords, put them into spreadsheets, and figure out where in the organization they should go to get reviewed. And we really kind of curate that entire process right now. We're moving to a more robust platform with text analytics that will automate a lot of that and do a lot of that, what we're doing by brute force now automatically. That's probably not going to be for another quarter or two. We're in the middle of doing that right now. But the brute force method now is, we get these verbatims, we try to categorize them, and we go out to the other teams, and really there's kind of inner loop and outer loop. The inner loop is, something acute happened and we can take care of it right now with a phone call or a follow-up. That's one, but what I'm really more interested in is the outer loop, the systemic issues that are identified. things not getting paid on time, long hold times for the call center, things like that. And right now we are just starting to categorize those outer loop issues and prioritize those, and then start to look at how do we address those. And so it's, like I said, it's primitive, but it's moving the right direction, and we'll be able to get a little more nimble when we implement our new platform.
Yep. Okay. Awesome. Anybody using big data or data other than survey data to go, data to insights? Any examples of that?
Yeah, this is Bobby. I mean, we're starting. Do you mean other, just to your point earlier, the breadcrumbs and the different disparate data sources and points that are in the organization?
Okay. Do you want to share?
Yeah, so we're using, we have a new person on our insights team that really now is plugged into a lot of the other data teams in the organization. And I use that very loosely because we're just now kind of as an organization really investing resources against data and understanding the data that we have and pulling that data together. But we're now starting to kind of try to pull the end-to-end together around the perceptions from customers that we see coming in from voice of customer surveys and ad hoc and qualitative feedback sessions, whatever those may be, and then starting to try to really understand how that ties to actual behavior and then business impact. So, but we're just now starting to scratch the surface on how we're pulling all of that together and getting our group really walking arm in arm with the different data teams in all the different areas of the business that are still pretty disparate, but we're hiring actually a head of data, enterprise data as a business moving forward. And so I think that will be really helpful as well, just having someone we can interface with that can help us kind of, right now we're just kind of Sherpas, finding our way around and finding all the data points. She kind of pulls them together. We've been outsourcing then. We dump a lot of that to an outsourced partner that kind of pulls it together and helps us really get it to the insights place, the tip of the pyramid. But we're starting to bring more of that in-house as we add one or two more people. And I mean, when I say small, we just have a tiny, tiny team that is doing this. But yeah, that's what we're doing. But we're still really, really rudimentary, a little bit brute force, like Stephen said. So.
Okay. Look for that new role or title, Data Sherpa, to be popular.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
In a couple of years.
I need to find one of those, by the way.
Yes, everyone needs a data Sherpa. I seriously, that is what it is at the end of the day.
All right, let's jump into a poll so we can. I know it's already 10 or 12 after, so we got a lot to cover today. So let's jump into our first poll. Sandra's going to pop up this poll so that you guys can answer the question, and as soon as it comes up here, we will have you guys answer if your organization is considered a data-driven organization. And while you're doing that,
go ahead. Sorry.
No,
I was going to say, I really love that pyramid on the previous page between information and insights, because that's one of the conversations we've been having internally among our insights professionals in particular, that it's kind of becoming, insights is kind of becoming this junk, meaningless word, right? That everybody says, oh, you'll get insights from this, you'll get insights from that. And really what they mean is information. You'll get some information, and you're not getting that aha moment that we're all trying to drive to.
Exactly.
I thought the reference articles that you sent for pre-read really kind of emphasize that point as well, just that, insights are actually few and far between compared to the amount of information we actually get.
Yeah.
And so it was good realization, because in my world, there's a ridiculous amount of data and information. I mean, it's insurance. But insights, there's probably, 5% of all the information is true insights.
There's a lot of useless. Yeah, there's a lot of useless information, but insights, as we'll see on the next slide, especially actionable insights, there are a lot of different ways to define that and what you're going to see. But you're right, aha moments is exactly what those ought to be.
Yeah.
All right, Sandra, how are we doing on the poll?
Yeah, so it looks like we've got, most people have voted, and we have many more. We have 45% who have said yes, they are a data-driven business. Only 9% that said no. And then the third option sometimes got a pretty high percentage as well, and that's 45%.
Okay, interesting. So according to Forrester, and you guys probably saw this in the pre-read, 74% of organizations want to be data-driven, but only 29% really are successful at it. And the difference in, the gap in that really has to do with what's missing, and what's missing is those actionable insights, right? We don't really need more data, we need more insights, and especially actionable insights. So let's talk a little bit about those on the next slide. I'm not going to read through, oops, too far.
Oops, sorry.
I'm not going to read through each one of these. I'll let you guys just take a quick gander through them. But what makes for an actionable insight? And I think you summed it up really nicely. It's that aha moment. And there are a lot of different ways that it can be an aha moment. So it can align with the business goals and your strategic initiatives. It gives understanding. It's something that's meaningful and actionable. So it's, circular definition there, but that's what it was in that Forbes article. That's where this comes from, that in that pre-read of the Forbes article that we sent you. It's specific. It identifies a root cause, which is always an aha moment. It's something novel, or it's something that provides clarity to an issue that you're dealing with in your business. So as you go through those definitions, I would say, or those different ways that an insight can be actionable, I would say, are there other ways that an insight can be actionable, or would you add others to this definition? And if you haven't, if there's no answer to that, then have you uncovered an insight, something that you thought was an insight that actually didn't align with the business goals or the strategic initiative or any of these things, right? That it was something that you thought, wow, this is amazing. This is actually going to be something that's going to help us drive some change, but it doesn't fall within any of these buckets. All right, that's good. I guess the guy did a good job of writing this article and gave us some great definitions. So anybody not agree with this definition?
I think one of the things that I found can be helpful is, in addition to novelty, does it challenge some existing beliefs?
I like that. That's actually a good point. And if it does, then what? What would you, is it because it might not then align with your strategic initiatives or goals, or it might not align with where you're headed? What do you do with something that challenges you? It can be a good way too, right? It can challenge you in a good way, right? But if it's not a good way.
But it's a way to kind of snap people out of their status quo, which is one of the in customer experience we really need to do.
Yeah, I like that. It gets you to think differently and do things differently, which is awesome. We absolutely need that. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else want to add to that? All right. Then we'll move on to prioritization. That sounds like a good topic. So obviously, once we've got these insights, let's say you've got, 8 or 10 different insights. Obviously, you can't use them all right away or do something with them all right away. So I guess the question for you now is, how do you guys prioritize your insights? How do you prioritize the initiatives? Where do you say, hey, this is the most important thing, or who says this is the most important thing? So let's talk about prioritization for a little while, because this is a big question. I've seen this come up a lot lately.
Hey, Annette, it's Stephen. I can tell you what we're doing. What we're doing here is we're transitioning from we've got the feedback from the customers. We've kind of themed them. We've gotten the insights, and now everybody goes and works on insights. But of course, we're constrained by resources. So what we're doing now is my team has come up with what we call a customer impact assessment tool, and it's just it's fairly basic spreadsheet tool that we do some scoring with, and we really try to size the impact. Meaning, in health insurance, we've got members, the people who receive care. We've got providers who deliver the care, whether it's a hospital or a doctor or a lab. We've got employees. We've got partners, vendors that we work with. And so across those multiple dimensions, we try to make an assessment on, if we were to fix this, whatever this insight is, what would it take, and what would the impact be? In other words, what is the size of the population of each of those groups, small, medium, large, and then what would it take for them to do it with respect to cost, time, and effort. In other words, would it increase, decrease, or stay neutral? And we kind of go across those dimensions and then come up with a score that helps us kind of size, what would have the biggest impact with the least effort. And we do that. And then, of course, we use that, if it's something big, we'll use that as the basis for, say, conducting interviews with people inside the company and say, who maybe are planning this, and then try to find out what they intend to do across those dimensions, and then try to coach them through. And because a lot of people just don't even put themselves in the other person's shoes, whether it's a provider, whether it's a member, whether it's an employee, whether it's a partner or a vendor, and you kind of really get people to think about, oh, what would it be like if you were on the other side trying to get this done, and is that a good idea or not? And that really helps us filter out, because all of a sudden you say, oh, that would be terrible to try to do that, because this would be nearly impossible and we'd probably fail. And so that's really important when you're trying to prioritize. The people who are trying to deliver it say, I don't think that's going to work, because then you don't waste time trying to do something that's probably not going to happen right now.
How do you, because that's great, thank you. How do you, you've got these 5 or 6 different constituents, right? How do you, when you layer on impact to the customer, and they're all your customers, right? Who gets priority, or how do you prioritize even just those different constituents?
That's a great question. The member is we weight them heaviest. We actually put some weightings there. They get kind of 3 times the score. The provider and the employee gets double the score, and the vendor/partner gets 1x the score. And so that's kind of how we weight it.
Awesome.
And Annette, there's a lot of activity on our chat here. Lots of really interesting things people are talking about. Not sure if you
see that, but I don't have my glasses on, so it all just looks like a blur to me. So if you anybody want to weigh in, feel free to.
I'll quickly read you some of the comments, and then you can run with anything, and anybody can jump in as they'd like.
Awesome.
Elvia said, and I love this, prioritization is dictated by our data guy who has the ear of the executive.
Interesting.
And then Lori said, I think in reaction to Stephen's description, she said, we do the same classic quad chart, impact versus effort investment. Lisa says, same here. Anita says, we rank against strategic goals and customer impact. Which Lauren said, hey, Anita, would love to hear more about that. And then I'm going to tell you what Marlange said, and then I think we should dig into Anita's. But Marlange said, reprioritize by quick wins, big wins, and need more information, which is also something I think we should hear more about. But Anita,
okay, so
I'm sorry.
I'm actually going to go back to Elvia, because Elvia was the first one that raised my, questions. So I wrote all 3 of you down. So we're going to go Elvia, and then we'll come to Anita, and then we'll go to Marlange. So Elvia, dictated by the data guy who has the ear of the executives. That's really an interesting one. So what is that? How does that translate? Like great to have the ear of the executives. That's always an important thing. But what do the executives want to hear or see in order for them to prioritize, right? And does it include impact on the customer? Because just because we have the ear of the executives doesn't necessarily mean that that's where their priority is.
Well, I think it's because of, they definitely have the data. It's all about the data. And you've met Hui, he's our data guy. Yep. So he's our unicorn on steroids over here that really goes through all the data and really knows how to, angle things in the right way. So we can make the data say whatever it needs to say, but overlaying it with other things like customer needs or customer, what area of the journey is being impacted the most. And so if he says that the data is telling us this, and our executives are very data driven, then he'll tend to be able to part the water like the Red Sea. He's our Moses,
nice.
to the promised land.
and he's a comedian too, so that helps. So.
Yes, he is. I'm sure he'd love the analogy.
Right?
Yeah. So, but I like it. I really like, he's really trying to find, validating data for things and really trying to make an impact. Because before it was very much a dry desert that we had here. We didn't really have a lot of good insights, and we had some, but we're trying to expand that visibility a lot more. But our hands are tied with dealer agreements and dealer contracts and privacy law. So especially in automotive, but we're really working with our dealers to open those windows up.
Awesome. Great. I love it. Thank you. All right, let's go to Anita. Talk a little bit about what you shared.
So I mentioned that we rank against strategic goals and customer impact when we're making decisions. So my company is headed up by actuaries. So their natural instinct is to always look at the bottom line. And so to round out how we look at customer experience, what they've done is they've started to kind of open up that dialogue to say, let's not take an angled approach at dollars and cents, but let's look at our key strategic priorities and understand the impact of what we're looking to do as it relates to those priorities. So for example, if it's something that plays against market share, we have a very big part to play from an experience point of view in growing that market share. So provided that we can show, what truly is the impact of the customer experience change we're looking to drive in the organization on the customer and that growth, there's a lot of openness to rank against that and then make the decision to proceed. Likewise, when we talk about, what does experience quality have to do with the prosperity of a insurance company? Again, it's easier to justify when you can dovetail it onto a strategic pillar and then be able to deliver it. So we found the conversation is a lot more enriching that way.
Yeah, it sounds like it. That's awesome. All right, and Marlange, and I'll come back to questions in just a second, but Marlange, can you share what you guys are doing?
Sure. So we look at quick wins, big wins, and need more information. And for quick wins, it's about the things that are easy enough to address but have high customer visibility that just have not been in the radar, right, or not a priority. Big wins might require investment. They might be more of a project. They're just a bigger undertaking. They might be more long-term, need innovation, that kind of thing. And then need more information are the things that need us to dig a little deeper. It might be that we need to do some root cause analysis or additional study, or even break down whatever we're looking at into smaller, more achievable pieces. But those are the three ways that we look at opportunities and prioritize them.
Awesome. And I'm going to have one more person share before we come back to questions. So was it Lee who said CX Governance Council?
Yeah, Lee said, same here, Lori and Lisa, which Lori and Lisa were talking about using the quad. And then he says, we're starting to look more at the customer impact piece. And then later he says, we use a CX Governance Council to help validate the priorities once our IPT matrixed team, where our COO equivalent deputy secretary signs off. So maybe Lee, you can perhaps share a little bit more about that.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And it was really great to hear from others how they approach it, and I'm taking a lot of notes on that. So yeah, we take a very similar approach in how we kind of rack and stack the opportunities. And I would say lately we've seen more on the small C than the big C. And I say small C meaning small CX. So a lot of operational / tactics opportunities versus the big C, which would be more strategic, which is something we're trying to look at internally. How do we balance that? But what's exciting about this Governance Council, and that's just from a government standpoint, because in the government we have this really, it's really very consensus-based, and especially on the VA, if you're in DoD, Department of Defense, or intelligence, it's more really a top-down approach, but pretty much the rest of government is really consensus-based. So to do that, we're using a governance, and I'm sure Colt has some more, interesting to hear his insights there from the Air Force side. But we use this Governance Council, which is part of kind of the apparatus of how do we move things forward in our agency. And what we did is we just designed with everyone else this customer experience governance. And that's where there's representation for every business line, and so that we have that consensus as we develop. Once the priorities are kind of worked at the matrix, the working group level, we bring it up to the council for final sign-off, so that once the deputy signs off on it, there's no surprises of why we're moving forward, and that really helps. And if there's any, and we try to address all the issues beforehand, but sometimes it goes up and then someone throws in like a red herring, and then we have to go back. But that kind of holds the organization accountable, and it's something that we've been kind of pressure testing for the past year and a half, which has been really kind of exciting to do.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us. And I just learned 3 new things: rack and stack, big C and little c. So all good, all good. All right, so I'm gonna throw it out to you guys to anybody ask questions of anything that you've heard, Elvia's, Anita's, Marlange, Lee's, or Stephen's, and feel free to just talk amongst yourselves.
Well, this is Colt. I'll just comment on the last one. That's Lee at BA. I think that's right.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. The Air Force is brand new at this, and my role was very recently created out of internal conversations that I think they've come to the realization that CX, and keep in mind what we're really talking about here is employee experience, but when you're talking about an organization of 650,000 people plus another 5 million outside the organization that we talk to on a regular basis and support, the employee experience and customer experience, those concepts and the tools you use start to merge, right? Vast organization, spread globally. So we don't have a lot of the plumbing and infrastructure yet to do this, right? There's not a governance council. Probably something I'm going to need to stand up. There's a lot of measurement of our sort of CX, a lot of measurement of that, not so much in the areas that I need right now. So I'm going to have to stand up a lot of that. So, we're just getting this off the ground. It's a new thing for them, but I will say this, and I kind of started out on this, but the notion of, what they use the term user experience, and they're focused more on IT and software. But the notion that user experience is directly connected to retention in the Air Force is something that is widespread. Frankly, everybody that I talk to in leadership at the Air Force realizes that there is a direct connection between user experience, different notion than CX, but somewhat related, is an issue. So they understand the connection. I don't think they have the data to prove it. One of my to-dos is figure out exactly what the connection is. So that's an insight that I'm looking for, is exactly what is that connection. I even mentioned it in a little blog post I put on LinkedIn today. But that's kind of where we are. We're just getting this thing off the ground. There's need, and we got some kind of hypothesis connected to it. We got to go out and execute.
Thank you for sharing that, Colt. Do you want this group to weigh in on the differences between the user experience and customer experience?
I'm very familiar with them. I don't use those terms synonymously at all. CX, UX, and EX. We have elements of all of those things that are in my purview here at in my current role. Okay.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Like I said, anybody have any questions for anybody who shared their approach to prioritization? Anybody have any questions?
This is Marlange. I have a question for Lee. Do you do any prioritization before bringing it to the governance level, or do you just bring what you have and the governance body kind of decides on the priorities?
Great question. No, we would prioritize it beforehand, so we then share as a recommendation, and the members of that council are essentially would be your kind of business leads in the organization. So for Colt, the equivalent would be kind of your head of personnel, So it's actually all your C-suite. It's your C-suite. Those are the members of council. But then we have we call the IPT, which is just a kind of a matrix project team, integrated project team that then is responsible for doing quote unquote the staff work, we call it, or the heavy lifting of figuring out what that looks like, and then we describe it to that team. And that group meets on so it's on a monthly basis at the council, but typically we share this at a quarterly basis. Usually if there's any tweaks at the annual plan, we make those tweaks at a quarterly basis. And if there's any emergent needs, quote unquote emergent, which there really isn't, but if there is, we could petition the governance body to say, hey, we have a special action. So it works very similar to like any council.
Lee, it's Anita. Just a quick question on that front. So do you actually have an operations council separate from your CX council, or are they one and the same?
Great question. It's separate. So we have the operation council. It's all the same body and organization that kind of runs it. But yes, we have an operation council. We call this the modernization council, that's where customer experience kind of lens is in. And then we have your performance council as well, performance management council too. And so what we've done is we have some tactics around experience that we deal with in the modernization side.
Right.
But then what we also have is we have the data for the insights drive the operation side and the performance side as well. So we kind of we got our tentacles there as well too.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, anybody else have any questions? All right, why don't we, so Sandra, let's skip the next slide since I think we've talked about that a little bit.
Everybody here pretty much knows what a classic prioritization framework looks like. I think most people are using it.
Yeah, it sounds like they've gone above and beyond that, so it's awesome. Great, great. So let's go ahead and do our next poll, which will lead us into the last section before we go into the member challenge. So I'm going to pop up a poll to ask you about how you share insights within your organization. I like to say insights without action are just expensive trivia. So how do you guys share and make sure that these insights get acted on? I love all the activity over in the chat as well. There's some good stuff there. Am I missing anything there, Sandra, while they're working on the poll?
Let me look and see if you've missed anything.
I suppose I can just put my glasses on and just look like a smart. Maybe that's.
I think we're all just cheering on Colts. It is awesome work.
Yeah. Lots of good stuff happening in the government right now. I've seen a lot of the vendors who are really focusing on government experience and stuff, and so it's great to have Colt and Lee here to represent a couple of areas there that are doing some great things with regard to customer experience. So thank you both for joining us today.
So I'll let you know how our poll is looking. It looks like we've got 9% dashboards, which is actually surprising to me. I expected that to be high.
Yeah, I did too.
And just, I think you can see the poll, Annette, right? You can see the wording here?
I can see the wording, but I don't see the responses. So I don't see
okay. Anyway,
no, I don't see what the percentages are. I only have the poll. So.
You know, what is the most effective way? Is how we put it. So dashboards is 9%. Executive department briefings with expectations and insights will be cascaded is 36%. So that's definitely the winner. Champion programs or other governance structures is 9%, and a mix of the above is 73%. So the mix was expected.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's obviously the best way to do this, because there are obviously different constituents within the organization that you want to get this out to. Anybody want to share? So that's going to lead us into the next slide, which is, do we have a slide for that or do we not? I don't know that we do on the next.
Oops.
Nope.
How about
Nope.
that?
All right. Yeah, we're not ready for that yet.
That's it.
All right. So anybody want to share any details in terms of specifically how they share insights throughout their organization? Anybody who's answered a mix, I think is obviously a good place to start, but even if you don't have a mix, that's fine too. But I'd love to have you guys share with others in the group here how you share insights throughout the organization. So I'm going to call on Lori. Lori, how do you guys do it?
Sarah's unmute. You know, we do some things very well and some things quite poorly, so it really depends what group you're looking at. And we often don't share things across the entire organization because it's not relevant to everyone. But we do mixes of, you know, dashboards and newsletters and conversations and you know, briefings and just all of the above.
Okay.
And some things we definitely could do better.
Like what?
Because like I said, well, some of the communications to our frontline employees, right? We're not terribly good about getting information back to the people who are actually facing the customers. So we're working on that.
Awesome. Anybody want to share how they, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, this is Bobby. I was just going to kind of reiterate tag on to what Lori said. I think we do, we're trying to get better at frontline and trying to determine what that is and what we share and how we share it and the language we use and all of those things, but we're really, really new. So if anyone does that well, I would love to hear how people are sharing insights back to the front line, to the people who are face-to-face, you know, with the customers.
Yeah, for sure. That was going to be what my next question out to the group was. Anybody feel like they're doing that well or doing it?
I don't know if we're necessarily doing it well, but it seems to be working thus far with our organization, which is relatively small, I would say. I mean, we're only about 150, 160 employees. So the departments are made up of, you know, anywhere between 5 and 17 employees. So we integrated into the weekly, you know, cadence of our meetings. So like my particular department with member success, you know, Monday morning, I'm sharing that with that specific department, which is the most probably customer facing department there is. But then we'll also break it off and make sure the tech's aware and their weekly debrief and make sure the sales is aware. I think it can be, for lack of a better word, easier because our company is still relatively small. I think that can be challenging to navigate into a cadence or meeting rhythm when you get really, really large, which sounds like some of your companies are. So.
Well, and I think that the briefings and then that cascading model, right? So the executive briefing and getting to each of the department heads who then need to, you know, take it and cascade it down throughout their organizations is really an important way to do that. So whether you're small or large, that's absolutely how you're going to get it down to the front line as well.
I think also like the concept of insights means that it has to be relevant to the audience, and sometimes the insights that you provide to executive level is actually completely irrelevant or not even actionable from a frontline perspective. So, you know, like I think that mix, the comment earlier, like in the poll about mixing is so critical because, you know, it is actually different data to different audiences because they won't be able to see them in the same light or be able to take ownership of them and do something about them if it's not relevant. Like I think about the things that senior management, even myself, care about versus those that my contact center representatives care about as insights. Very, very different things. Their aha moments are not the same as mine, right? So.
Yeah. And I think you make a great point, right? Some of it is, insights that are informational for the front line, right? Like good to know, like, yeah, we are listening to our customers, we've uncovered this, blah, blah, blah. But I think what we need to really get to the front line is specific feedback about either them, because we get that through the surveys, or specific feedback about the team or department that they sit in that they then need to get together and, you know, figure out, you know, root causes and how to fix it and all of that. So, and there's coaching from their managers and those kinds of things. So I think you're absolutely right. I mean, it's the audience and the objective of the insights as they're being shared. And sometimes for a front line, it's not even at that point insight. It is the data. Here's what we heard. You know what? Now we got to go and do something with it. So, yeah.
I have
Okay,
one
anybody else
example.
want to share? Oh, sure, please.
Yep, so sorry, I wasn't able to get on the Zoom tool. My laptop wouldn't enable it, but I work with Lori, and I can validate that she's the person that rounds up the troops and everybody in our organization to make sure that this important stuff is shared across. Very recently, I've been working with Lauren on even getting feedback. We have something where we're doing a stacked whale curve. So it does all start with big data. We have to pull big data from everything to understand, and we put together a very thoughtful integrated contribution margin model so we can try to at least look at all of our customers equally across all the different portfolio of products that we're selling them today. And what we realized is they're far from equal. And when the aha moment for us is the insight that literally 99% of our revenue came from 50% of our customers. So that was kind of like the aha moment, and we can't continue to, keep treating for the majority all the customers the same, and we're gonna weaken our service level if we continue to do so, make all these specialty SKUs and all of these products for one-off customers. So I think a thing that really helps unite everybody, all the troops, whether it's a frontline person at the plant to an executive, is a startling statistic, just to say, wow, guys, look at all the work that we're putting into this in an organization. And that was kind of like a call to action, a startling statistic that got it all going. But another way that we really reinvigorated the masses was to pull in all the different functions, because the operations, those frontline people who are at our plants that are providing that SKU to those customers every day, had so many more insights. So we started it with the frontline, with once we had executive buy-in to do something and start eliminating customers and SKUs so that we can increase our service level for those top 50%. It started with our operations team to say, what are your first insights? What are we not seeing? We're showing that we should remove all of these. Is this true? What are other kind of insights that you can share with us? And our operations team gave back an astounding amount of information on how each facility is impacted by different SKUs and troublesome customers and easy to work with customers, and maybe even some SKUs that, although it's not that profitable, it's really takes nothing to make because it's a binary product of another one. So I think starting with the startling statistic, then first going to our frontline people really engaged. So now as we're moving along, and Lauren's helped craft the message to really understand that, by reducing customers and SKUs where we're not profitable, and they're not maybe profitable either, we can spend more time to focus on that top 50% of our customers and provide a better and enhanced service level and even additional service level offerings that we haven't in the past. And I think really the trick was startling with that key statistic and then going to the frontline people to share that with them. Nobody wants to get rid of a customer. That's the hardest thing to do with anything I've worked on at Cargill, period. Yeah. But that really invoked everybody to get on the same page and want to solve this together. And so I felt like that might be a relevant example that started with big data. It's help us prioritizing and helping us reach the different stakeholder levels in the organization.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that.
Yeah. This is Colt again. I just wanted to back that up. I totally agree. There's no substitute. There's just no substitute for really understanding, kind of the frontline, business and what's important to them and the activities they're doing and the troubles they have. There's just no substitute for that. And often, I think the most important insights you have, the most useful insights you have, just seem blindingly obvious to the people that are out there interacting with your customers. They're just, they can't even imagine why you would not have thought of this. And, but yet sometimes headquarters does not.
Yep, great point. Great point. Anybody else want to add anything? Anybody else want to share anything about the entire time? Before we go, last 10 minutes we're going to spend on our member challenge. So I wanted to just, before we shift gears to that, see if anybody else wanted to add or ask anything about any of the things that we've talked about today. Don't be shy.
I guess I just have one quick question, how this relates. Okay. And I know this is specific a lot to IT world, but as we're talking about opportunities and prioritization, and sometimes with new product development, we don't use Agile. I was wondering, just from a group perspective, is anybody using an agile framework really well today? And if so, would they mind sharing how and why they think they're successful?
Stephen, is there anything from your past that you can share on that, even if you're not doing it today? Did we lose him? Lauren, do you have any examples from your past that you can share? Or anybody that you're working with right now?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I coach a number of clients on using Agile, and believe it or not, my family uses Agile. We actually started a sprint last night. So it's embedded.
I love this. This is a great example.
It's funny.
Yeah, my family comes up with user stories. We prioritize a backlog, and then we bring, you know, whatever our family requirements are, come through, you know, through a process of prioritization and then retrospecting on their effectiveness. So yeah, very close to home. But in a larger scale organization, because we're a family of 4, I find that really the effectiveness of Agile is a recognition that it's cultural change, and that, you know, the organization has to give teams that freedom to operate, you know, independently, and that freedom to try things and fail. And that can sometimes not fit into an organization's culture. And so the first thing is a reflection on the fact that when you're using Agile, the quickest way to make it unsuccessful is to interfere with the teams forming and really building trust and openness to communication, and, you know, letting them bring forth their ideas. And you can use Agile not just in software, but looking at any time when, you know, you've got a lot of tasks that people have to take on. I used it with a pharmaceutical organization that was looking to improve their customer experience for new customers. So, you know, they're trying to bring up the quantities of orders with a loyalty program. And as they were doing it, how do they make their sales team effective in those conversations, and building that relationship? So as we were thinking about creating a backlog of ideas, but then letting the teams kind of pick off which ones they felt would be most effective, and then present those, you know, on a 3-week cycle where they'd kind of in some way showcase or demonstrate what it was that they, you know, key learning that they had, or maybe something they tested out. But it is, like I said, it's got to be reflective of the culture before just digging into a methodology. Yeah. Does that help?
That is actually super helpful. And I think one thing to add, I think one thing that's engaging where any company could use it is sometimes if you're a large organization, you feel like you have to get something to perfect mode before getting it out, and then it's too late. Somebody's beat you to it, or so much has changed. So just that quick sprint and delivering product increments rather than what you think is a perfect solution that's 2 years late. I think just that alone is a really important thing. And I just have to ask, are you the product owner in your family Scrum team?
we rotate. Yeah, we have a rotating Scrum Master, rotated product owner. Yeah, and people are like, wow, you run a democracy in your house? And, well,
love it.
Not always. But thank you. Thanks for letting me share that. And yeah, if anyone does have questions on Agile, I'm always happy to be a resource for any of you.
Thanks, Lauren. That's awesome. All right. This has been a great conversation, guys. I really appreciate everybody's input and participation today. I know that after this roundtable, Sandra's going to send out a summary and some other resources, and you'll have each other's contact information as well. So if there's additional conversations or additional questions, or you want to reach out to Lauren to get more insights and details on Agile, you'll have that contact information in the email. So in the last 5 minutes or so, 7 minutes, 8 minutes, we're going to just shift gears for a second, and I'm going to turn it over to Spencer, who presented us with today's member challenge. During these roundtables, the last 10 or 15 minutes or so, we'd like to introduce a challenge that one of the members is having and has approached us with, and throw it out to the group to help him or her address that challenge. So Spencer, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And thank you for today. This has been extremely valuable, like to hear insights.
Oh, awesome.
So such a phenomenal group. So I'll give you a quick, kind of 30-second context, and then what's on the screen is exactly kind of what I wanted to play around with today. So at Snack Nation, we're developing an app in which all of our customers who receive our snacks, so the offices and all their employees, they can actually use this app to rate and review the snacks. And then on the back end, we're developing an algorithm so that we can have a predictive model of what the curation of their snacks at their office would prefer, right? Because right now it's very manual and speaking to our points of contact. So as part of this, I conducted a poll. So we're B2B. I conducted a poll on one of our some of our customers, asking if they would prefer a rewards program to have incentives that they can use for personal use, such as like gift cards and stuff, like them specifically, like the point of contact that we work with, or if they would prefer rewards that can be redeemed for like the company or their team as kind of a group effort. And overwhelmingly, it was about 92% of them said that they prefer personal rewards. So we know that they found it for themselves.
Shocking.
Shocking. Totally cool with that. But I'm glad that I did that because I was thinking about, you know, rewards that could be kind of team and company and discounts and promotions of our products. But that being said, this is the office manager who's really going to be using this app the most. They're not necessarily the decision maker per se on how much money they're spending with us. And they don't always care about the promotions and discounts so much as their boss might. But we want them to be rating and reviewing the snacks and getting their employees to do it. So I'm developing a rewards program around it. And I'm really just curious on if anybody on this call is in the B2B space, if you've got any ideas or experience with what's successful in a rewards program, like what's worked, what's a good stickiness factor. And aside from that, if you are B2C or just a customer yourself, what's your experience been with reward program and what kind of keeps you coming back? I'm looking for like those stickiness kind of ideas that we can just kind of brainstorm if you like. That was more than 30.
Can you give me 100,000 miles on United?
That would be fantastic. Okay, I'm writing that down.
Or just status so I can get ahead of all the people who have credit cards and I can get in a decent seat for a change.
Yeah, you know, so let me pull on that thread and that because status is one thing that I've been reading about. Do you guys see value in like a tiered program? So, you know, like Starbucks has whatever their regular silver program, and then if you're gold, you get like special incentives for, you know, and I think Sephora makeup has that as well. Is that something we'll see value in?
How much does the consumer actually control their ability to, like, are they personally purchasing something? Like, can they make themselves go in a higher tier?
Yeah, so I'll give you a little bit more context. So with the way the app will work, I'm going to create a point-based system based on how many snacks they rate on a 5-star rating, as well as there'll be a points-based system on the number of reviews. So they'll type in like the actual review of that snack. So you can receive points by doing it that way. Yeah.
Yeah. So because those two actions are 100% controllable by the person, like I think you could do a tiered thing if you wanted to, right? Because then like I can influence my own outcome. Like it'd be different if, you know, this was happening to me, somebody's buying these on my behalf. And so, you know, my participation is dependent on somebody else, right? But I think where that kind of like, I'll share with you, like, so I'm a huge fan of Marriott Bonvoy, and I travel a lot for work. So for me, you know, the tiered service that they have, like I'm always striving to, so I do my personal travel and my work travel all on Marriott because, you know, I want to get to that next tier because it affords me other things, right? So I think,
awesome.
You know, I do the same thing for Air Canada. All my personal travel that I possibly can control, short of my cheapy tickets that I need to get once in a while. You know, the rest of them, I'm putting them on there because I want to be able to get my free luggage or whatever else, right? So, so for me personally, I think it drives my behavior as a consumer, but there has to be something in it for me that keeps coming to me. Right? Like whether it's an annual renewal opportunity or whether it's, you know, your gift card idea or whatever, like either you're dribbing and drabbing my benefits or I have to hit a tier. I personally, and I don't know what others feel, but I personally like if I have to work towards something over time as opposed to just getting that instant gratification all the time.
That's phenomenal. Thank you. That's great.
No problem.
Anybody else?
I've been thinking about this. This is Lori. Hi, Spencer.
Hey, Lori.
How you doing? Good?
Good. Yeah, great, thank you.
So from a business perspective, really the only rewards program I'm in is Delta. And then, you know, I've got all the hotel ones, but I never stay at any given hotel often enough because I just say, find me a hotel in wherever to our travel. But I am fortunate to work for a company where we can keep our rewards, but I know companies where people, the company keeps their rewards for travel, keeps their miles. So I think there's a lot to be said too, even if they don't influence exactly what shows up in their box, that they could have this sort of broader impact on the boxes in general or something like that. Or one cool thing might be, hey, you know, after so many, you get the chance to pick the contents for your company's box, or you'd have to get buy-in from, you know, the companies obviously for that.
Yeah, it's interesting though. I follow. Yeah, okay.
And I don't buy anything like your service, I've got to say. So most of the companies I work with are consultants. So maybe I'm not the best person, but I don't really, I mean, you might want to look at like how do office supply stores work with B2B.
Okay. Oh yeah, like Staples,
like
that's
that.
a good idea. Like Staples has a reward program, I believe. Okay.
Yeah, I think they do. Okay.
Great,
Good luck.
thank you, Lori. Yeah, thank you very much. Cool.
And
All right, I know we're at the top of the hour. Anybody else want to just? I'm sorry if I cut somebody off just now. Go ahead.
No, it was just me. I was going to say it is the top of the
Okay.
hour. Yeah, if one more person has anything, if not, if you sleep on an idea or it comes to you in the shower, send it to me.
That's where we do our best thinking, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, so thank you everybody for your input to Spencer Challenge and to your input throughout the last hour. This was really great. I hope it was, I'm going to use the word insightful for you guys. So, and as I mentioned, Sandra's going to follow up with a couple of other post reads and some notes from today, and you'll have everybody's email address again. So if you've got any additional thoughts for Spencer, please respond to them. But otherwise, we've got our next roundtable next month. Stay tuned for that. We haven't picked a topic yet, but Sandra, what's the date on that one? September, I want to say 13th?
Second Tuesday of the month. I'm not sure what the date is off. I want to say maybe the 15th, but second Tuesday of the month, same time.
That might be the 8th.
Awesome.
Yep.
Oh, awesome. Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
all
you
right,
guys.
thanks you guys. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thanks.
All right, bye.
Bye.